Oh my gosh, using points to rate wines is such a hot topic, and most people don't even know how it all works. I've been dealing with this as a sommelier for over a decade and want to help you cut through all the clutter and simplify things. This video is one of a 3-video series. The other videos are the opposite ends of the spectrum from each other when it comes to rating wines. One is for those who are a little bit further along. It deals with wine ratings, how it works, and the key players. The other one is more applicable to most of us, and it's called the Buffalo Theory of Wine. In this video, we'll learn about how to use ratings to our advantage. We're going to look at 3 things. We'll see who started the rating system and why. We'll learn how it works, and we'll look at the 5 pitfalls of points and how to negotiate those pitfalls. Oh, keep in mind, if at any time you like what you hear, click like or subscribe or hit the little bell so you'll be notified when there is a new post. Number 1, who in the world came up with the rating system and why? In the 1980s, a wine writer named Robert Parker wanted the consumer to have a better idea about how to buy a relatively good bottle of wine. Today, Parker is the most recognized wine critic in the world. His 100-point system is generally considered the standard scale by which wine is critically rated. Number 2, how does all this rating wines work? Generally, most organizations use the 100-point rating system. It has become the benchmark of quality of the wine industry. This system rates some aspects of wines quite well, including quality. But there are a few inconsistencies that you should be aware of in order to shop smart. Generally speaking, this is how the scoring goes. You'll see on the table across the top factors, comments, and the allotted points for each category. Along the left column, under factors, the first category is it's wine. Just getting your wine in front of the critic, you get 50 points. On the chart, you can see the other categories and the corresponding maximum allocated points for color and appearance, aroma and bouquet, flavor and finish, overall quality, and the total points. While this appears relatively simple, it requires experienced, well-trained palates to differentiate each of these factors. It's actually quite hard to get a high score on this evaluation. A lot of things have to fall into place and be done just right by the producer. Keep in mind, wine ratings don't tell us how delicious a wine is. Instead, wines are scored based on production quality and typicity or connectedness, which is the degree a wine reflects the region of the world that it came from and how much it demonstrates the characteristics of that particular grape varietal. I'll touch on this a little bit more in a second. Oh, by the way, how are you doing there? Is this information making sense? If it is, just write Asti in the comments below. Okay, here's the third thing we're going to look at. There are some downsides to ratings and scores. We'll look at those and my suggestions on how to negotiate those downsides. Number 1, to me the biggest downside is people get tunnel vision. Actually, I have a love-hate relationship with scores or points. They help us purchase wines where someone else, an expert, has done our homework. But frequently, some consumers depend too heavily on the scores. They don't try new wines unless they have points. Frankly, I know how you feel. You and I don't want to waste our money on below average wines. But this approach eliminates us from experimenting with and experiencing some incredibly beautiful wines. The solution to this is deliberately try new wine. You know, a Tempranillo, a Blaufränkisch. Try something from different parts of the country or different parts of the world. Ask friends what they like. Ask the salesperson for their recommendation. But don't ask the salesperson, whether in person or online, what they sell a lot of. Ask them what's good. Tell them your price range, and I assure you they'll be happy to show you. The number 2 thing is everyone has a different opinion. Keep in mind, even though ratings are being done by experts, this is a sensory analysis. That means it's not going to be completely objective. The scores are an opinion submitted by experts. Some critics are all about old world wines, wines that are complex yet subtle, while other critics get all jazzed up about new world wines, which are wines that are complex and bold. The way this may flesh out is when you have three critics tasting the exact same wine. The complex and subtle critic may rate the wine with 88 points, while the complex and bold critic may rate it with 92 points. Another critic who has an affinity for something in between subtle and bold may score it with a 90. Same wine, different scores. And if you're a 90 point or better buyer and see only an 88 rating, you may miss out on a really good wine. One of the ways to deal with this is to recognize that some critics score lower than others. Get to know how the different critics score. I just saw in a store the other day a wine that had two ratings on it, one by Wine Enthusiast at 90 points and one by Decanter Magazine at 96 points. Before I had actually noticed who had rated the wines, I'm thinking, wow, 96 points. Now some people might have seen that 96 points and jumped all over that wine. You have to realize that Decanter is one of those organizations that tend to rate a little bit higher, sometimes unrealistically high. Now if you didn't know this, you'd think that wine is one of the best, most unique wines in the entire world. It wasn't. Number 3. Earlier I used the term typicity and connectivity. There are two pieces to this. Number 1 is the degree a wine demonstrates the characteristics of the grape, plus number 2, the degree it reflects the place or the region of the world the grape comes from. So the problem is, equally rated wines of the same grape varietal from different regions of the country or parts of the world taste very different, and you may not understand how that can make sense. Very simply, it's because where they're from. A different place with different climates, different soil, different elevation, and other factors. See, let's apply that to a wine. You might try maybe a Pinot Grigio from Italy and a Pinot Gris from California. If you take the time, you'll taste the difference. They'll both taste like, number 1, the varietal, which is Pinot Grigio, but you'll be able to taste the slight difference because of, number 2, the place they're from. Take a taste test tonight actually and see. When you do that, it will all begin to make sense. Anyway, the wine critic has to judge and rate how well the wine they're tasting represents both the characteristics of the grape and the place it comes from. They'll ask, is it a good representation, a very good representation, or an exceptional representation of both the grape and the place where the grape grew? See, scoring wine isn't all that simple. That's why we leave it to the experts. So, taste and get to know the same varietal from different regions of the country or world, see how you like them, and you can also look at the different scores that the different critics give to the wines. That way, you'll get to know both the wine and how that critic scores things. Number 4, there's a boatload of unrated wine out there. Actually, there's more unrated wines than rated wines. I have a little chart on one of my other videos in this series that shows all this. You might want to check that video out. The different rating organizations rate anywhere from 400 to 500 wines per year. Some rate as many as 16 to 20,000 wines per year. When you consider all the wines produced in this country and globally, the lion's share of these wines are never rated. Those that are rated are a mere drop in the bucket compared to the hundreds of thousands of wines that come out every year which are never rated. There are unique, beautiful wines that you can find in small shops, large stores, and online that are not rated. If you don't give some of these wines a shot, you'll be missing out. What I'm saying is, don't worry if a wine is not rated. For your everyday wine, experiment. You may find that some of these wines are as good or better than some of the rated wines, and you'll have found something really unique. Number 5, unique wines versus unrated wines. The wines that don't have any ratings fall into two categories. 1, they haven't been rated, or 2, they have been rated and don't have a high score. The ones that have been rated but have lower scores, the producer gets that wine into the market but doesn't tell anyone about the score. Frequently, these wines are the ones being mass marketed, and price is the driving factor. Typically, if a producer gets less than an 88, there's nothing said in writing about the quality. When it comes to the never been rated wines, the reality is some of these are dogs, and some are absolutely wonderful wines, unique, made by small producers, full of flavor and character. These are the types of wines that you could absolutely fall in love with, and I recognize there's a little bit of a gamble going on here. You'll find sweet, dry, red, white. There are some great wines out there. Ask around, experiment, have fun with all this. Wine ratings can be very useful, especially when paired with being curious and experimenting. As I mentioned earlier, this video is one of a 3-video series. The other videos are on opposite ends of the spectrum from each other when it comes to rating wines. For those of you who are a little bit further along, there's the video Wine Ratings, How It Works and the Key Players. And the other video is more applicable to most of us. It's called The Buffalo Theory of Wine. Well, there you have it. Everything you need to know about what rating wine is all about, and some of the pitfalls of points and some of the solutions. If you've enjoyed this video and it was helpful to you, let me know in the comments below. Make sure you subscribe for new videos that come out every single week, and give it a like if you liked it. Also, if there's someone you know that's interested in wine, make sure you share this video with them. I'd really appreciate that. And ring the bell to be notified when I post other videos. Folks, I'm here to help and serve you as we learn more about wine together.